Hello everyone. We're back with our random playthrough of Our Life Beginning and Always. We're about to head into Step 2, which is 5 years later after Step 1. Our characters have now gone from 8 years old to 13 years old. And the start of being a teen and all the awkwardness that comes with it. Now, between each step, you can continue to customize little things about your character, physical features, styles, and so on. And so we're gonna see what our randomizer generates. Still got this little square face. Has a little more slope now. There's a lot of hairstyle options to go through, but let's see what we get. And we've grown our hair out and got this nice two-tone look. Now it's got some wave in the back too. And as for our hair color, getting wild and crazy. We're going through a phase right now. Our pronouns have not changed, but we could change the name we go by if we wanted to. Any new marks on us? Yeah, our hand size is still the same. Switch to these half-level glasses. Can't really see the earrings through the long hair, but we have them. A scar along the way. Watches more often. And now let's proceed. As how have our feelings evolved? We started out right at crush thanks to the randomizer. But now we're feeling a little more nervous about it. And we're still not old enough as characters to go straight into love yet. That's for the next step. Now here, you can customize Cove a little bit too, as you can see. But if you leave this alone, this Cove's appearance and personality are going to be affected by how you interact with him. So like his style, whether he has a warmer or colder personality, just things like that. But we're just randomized around, we're not going to deal with that today. August ended. September began. It was time to go back to school. Lizzie groaned and complained the entire first week. She hated going to classes. Still, there were interesting things to do that couldn't be done anywhere else. You weren't sure how Cove felt about it. He was enrolled that year. That was like a sign Cove would be staying in Sunset Bird for a while. At school, he was alright, but kept his distance from the other kids. From what you saw anyway. Whenever he could, Cove stuck to you like glue. He didn't even mind that much what he did to pass the time, as long as it was together. And that was just fine. He felt in the same way you always had. Nothing changed. Except, as you got older, you were able to understand better exactly what those feelings had, and still meant. That year, the divorce of Cove's parents was finalized. You overheard your parents talking about it, since Cove's dad got full custody. At first, you worried that meant bad news. Then it made Mr. Holden cry, apparently. Then you found out it meant Cove would keep living with his dad. He would only stay with his mom a few weeks out of the year. Cove cried too. For different reasons, you thought. It seemed like Cove and his dad might move again. And Mr. Holden decided to stay after all. Mom asked him about it once. He said he didn't want to uproot Cove's life a second time. Mr. Holden tried to get Cove to like Sunset Bird more. He kept encouraging his son to go out and see the place. Sometimes Mr. Holden volunteered you to spend time with Cove. He seemed very confident that it was an effective strategy. Cove never talked to anyone about what happened with his parents and withdrew whenever it was brought up. It was hard for him, yet nobody knew how to help. Eventually, Cove stopped crying on his own. He couldn't understand what had changed. But he hoped that you could help him feel better still. Since even without the tears, he looked sad. Maybe one day he could say out loud what he felt inside. After that, it felt like things had gone back to normal, except what was normal didn't stay the same. Years passed, and suddenly, you're in middle school. You weren't a kid anymore. You were 13 years old. That officially made you a teen. Even your sister didn't agree. The toys and crayons that used to litter every free space in your room had been packed away somewhere, replaced by new hobbies. There were other changes too. So Cass got taken off. It was weird to see him without it initially. Underneath the pink plaster, it ended up being a long, thin scar that snaked across his forearm. Cove's chest puffed out in pride when someone drew attention to it. He also went through a major growth spurt. He was the tallest student in his class for 2 years in a row. But we'll probably hold that spot again next time. In class, people knew him for more than just being tall. He also stood out because of how well he did in gym and other athletic situations. Over the years, he began opening up more too. You saw him talking amicably with other kids or neighbors from time to time. And the only kid that came to visit the neighborhood when you were little, Shiloh, well, he was gone. He and his mom moved back south because of her work, just 1 year after Cove came to Sunset Bird. It had been really upsetting when he left, because he was inconsolable for weeks. But nobody talked about Shiloh anymore. It was a long time ago. He learned some heartbreaking things became less sad the further away they were, if they had never gotten any better. That was sad in its own way. Things at home were different too. He still lived in the same house and all that, but it wasn't how it was before. Ma dyed her hair purple, wanting something new. I liked it so much she kept dyeing it. You remember calling her Mommy as a kid, but something like that seemed awkward nowadays. You were much too old for the word. Lizzie felt too mature for a nickname too. She insisted on everyone calling her Elizabeth. So you did. Your mom soon gave her permission to go places other than the playground and shopping street, which she took advantage of. You rarely saw her around the old neighborhood. In fact, she hardly spent time with you the way she did before. Elizabeth instead associated more and more with girls from school who were her own age. Maybe the difference between 13 and 15 was greater than the difference between 8 and 10. You started befriending new people yourself, like Derek Suarez. He didn't live in the neighborhood or go to the same school. What happened was his and Cove's dad struck a business partnership a few months ago. Since then, Derek would pop up in the area now and then. It seems Mr. Suarez was happy to let Derek tag along in his work, if Derek had the time for it. Without a doubt, everyone and everything around you had changed, in small and big ways. You had too. As time went by though, it was easy to settle into this new normal. Then, before you knew it, school was over, and summer vacation had come again. It was the first day of summer vacation. The sun was as hot as ever, but you were inside and away from its harsh rays. To be more specific, you were... snuggled up in bed, celebrating your time off by sleeping in. It was hot, but you still had the blanket up over your head to block out the sun. You didn't want it intruding on your lazy morning. Unfortunately, you hadn't prepared for an intrusion. Beneath the blanket, you heard the door creak open. You're still sleeping? Wow. Get up. And you got up. There's no avoiding it now. Not for a lazy morning. Mom told me to tell you that your baby boyfriend is here and just wants to see you again, like he does every day. He brought some happy summer gift from Mr. Holden. Mom wants you to take it from him, say thanks or whatever. You did not like the way she called him your baby boyfriend, but you find out that saying so wouldn't stop her.
Come on!
So calm down already. Okay, fine. Lisa said nothing else and left, having done what was instructed of her. You rolled out of bed, stretching your arms up high and yawning. Time to get ready. You sat yourself in front of the mirror in the far corner of your room. How tall did we get? You had trouble getting your reflection to appear in the mountain mirror frame. You're very short. You're even smaller than Derek. People are always surprised to find out you and Cove are the same age, considering the almost comical height difference. You weren't sure how to feel about it. Things kept changing. With the height you actually had and with the impression that height was based on your age, it was confusing. Then you put the finishing touches on your outfit while ruminating on the situation. Just as they had been, Elizabeth's word piqued your curiosity. You planned on going over to see what Cove was up to today, but this worked in your favor. It was when you spotted your reflection that you realized you were smiling wide. You were looking forward to seeing him. You left your room, resting a hand on the railing as you went down the stairs. Step 2. Second chance. You spotted Mom first, reclining on the couch. She held a magazine in her hands, which she was perusing through. Morning, Mom. She looked up at your greeting, the smile instantly appearing on her face.
Thanks!
Good morning, Jamie. Thank you for coming down. I'll at the door of Cove. He can't stay over today, unfortunately. Why don't you go and thank him before he leaves? You nodded and made your way to the front of the house. Just as you said, I was there making conversation. She must have heard you because she looked over her shoulder.
Oh?
Look who finally made it. Morning, sleepyhead. Ma reached forward and you knew she was about to pat you on the head. She was taller than average for an adult woman, so at your height, you're absolutely tiny in her eyes. Got a tiny Jamie. You tilted your body aside to dodge. Ma didn't bother trying to catch you. She simply smiled. You're the last one down today, you know that? Morning. That's all? You really are a sleepyhead right now. With a small laugh, Ma stepped aside. Cove was just as you remembered. Exactly how you came to know him to be. He leaned uncomfortably to the side in your doorway, as the longest strands of his hair idly drifted with the breeze. His features were pinched in embarrassment as he shifted from one foot to another. He was holding what was the much talked about gift. At first glance, he figured it must be a bouquet of flowers. Then he gave it a real look. No, instead it was carefully cut fruit. It made a lot of sense that it was actually from Cove's dad. He had to suppress a laugh at this showing. You can imagine many folks buying that sort of thing for their own personal enjoyment. That kind of arrangement was built for the presentation, likely to impress whoever was inevitably going to receive it. It seemed no matter how long he lived here, Mr. Holden would keep going out of his way to be neighborly, and Cove would always be roped into participating. Cove sighed in relief at the sight of you. He must have been braving some embarrassment to get this far, and that had clearly been what he was waiting for. Hey, Jamie. He broke eye contact then, staring down at the ground instead. Your heartbeat sped up, being near him. He smiled back fondly. He always had this kind of effect on you, you can help think, ever since the two of you were kids. There was something about him that was just special, in some strange and indescribable way. Hey, it's nice to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice seeing you too. Not that it's nice for you to see me. Both of you had a bit of a laugh. Their gazes still didn't meet again. It was already shaping up to be another long summer. The best part was that the two of you had plenty of time to enjoy each other's company and relish what you had together. His awkwardness took over the task, started to creep back in, so Cove nudged to get closer to you. He was ready to be relieved of it. Your hands brushed over his just slightly when he took hold of the base. He finished enough window with certainty that he noticed it happen. You worried you might have reacted in a similar way without realizing it. Now that the gift was accepted. I hope you and your family like this. It's a pretty good gift. I think so anyway. He smiled earnestly. Dad spent a lot of time picking out the best size and design. There's so many options to choose from. Thank you. And to you and Mr. Holden. I'll tell him he said that. Mr. Holden's behavior really was different from any neighbor you'd ever had. Though after 5 years, you were used to his antics, and you'd since made up your mind on what your opinion was. You didn't like him. But that was something you kept to yourself. You just were quickly interrupted by a shout. There you are. You shared a confused look with Cove. As one both if you stepped through the open door onto the neighborhood street. It didn't take long to locate the source of the noise. You spotted Derek, just a few yards down the road. He ran up to you. You were happy at the sight of him. Derek was certainly a welcome guest in your neighborhood. It was a pleasant surprise whenever he showed up. After stopping a couple steps away, Derek hunched over to catch his breath. He looked up with a wide grin.
Hey.
Hey, my guys. I was just at your house, Cove, but no one was there. Should have figured you'd be at Jamie's place. You ever spend time in your own home, or are you always just there? Derek laughed at his own joke. He either didn't notice that it embarrassed Cove, or the embarrassment was what he was actually laughing at. Derek turned to you. He was going to say more when his eyes widened and he gasped. What's that? You followed his gaze, unsure, and you realized what he meant. You were still holding Mr. Holden's gift. This is kind of like a bouquet of flowers, but made out of fruit.
Nice.
Nice, can I have some? I haven't even tried any yet. Derek pouted at your words, not hiding his disappointment. Aww. And he nodded his head, as if to clear it. Anyway, that's right. I came here because I needed to say something big. He paused, possibly for effect. There's some other kid here in Sunset Berg. Cove was as surprised as you were by the news. Such a reaction made sense. No one around your age had moved here since Cove did 5 years ago. Were they with their family? Maybe they were cutting through. Nuh-uh. New kid was all by himself, just walking. Did you talk to them?
Nope.
Came to report the sighting right away. The kid had green hair, glasses, was pretty small, and seemed really upset about something. I hope he didn't leave. He blinked. So he looked over to your longtime neighbor. Huh? Sounds a lot like you, Cove. When you first got here, anyway. It kinda does, doesn't it? That's weird. He sounded almost fond, a small smile playing on his lips. Derek snickered good-naturedly. I can see that pretty well, now that you say so. What'd you say? Let's go find Cove's look-alike. We should all meet him.
Sure.
I'll do it. Sure, I want to see who this person is. Derek grinned. Then he pointed down at the street, the way he came. As I saw him, the mystery visitor was going this direction. Nothing else needed to be said. The three of you were off, with Derek leading the way. Derek brought you to the beach, and as a trio, you made your way down the shore to the old playground. You walked the familiar path in a comfortable silence. When you were almost there, you spotted the kid in question. His bright colors almost shone like a beacon beneath the rays of the sun. He scuffled around, kicking up the sand as he paced. It was true, he certainly seemed upset. But you didn't think he was sad like you had originally pictured. No, with his erratic movements and scrunched-up expression, he came off angry. You became uncomfortable at the idea of talking to the stranger now. You didn't want to bother him if he was in such a bad mood. Derek didn't feel the same. He waved wildly, calling out to the boy. Hey, guy! Over here! The kid whipped around an impressive scowl carving deeper into his face. His eyes were tired, but a strong, hostile energy still radiated from him.
What?
What is it? What do you want? The sharp tone made Derek flinch. He shifted on his feet. What's your name? Jeremy. Was that it?
No.
I'm Derek. That's Jamie and Cove. We were just walking around and saw you. We wanted to say hi. There aren't a lot of kids our age in the neighborhood. Yeah, so, you know, it's cool to see someone else here. Strangely, Jeremy grew furious by your response. If steam could erupt from a person's ears, it would have appeared then. They did bring me somewhere stupid. Of course. I knew it. What?
My parents.
You're the ones who brought me. I didn't walk to this town. Can you not figure that out on your own?
Right.
Right. My dad brings me to Sunset Bird too when he has to come for work and all that stuff. It's not bad. That earned him a glare from Jeremy. Derek winced beneath it, glancing away. It was a struggle to remain friendly with this Jeremy guy. I mean, I wouldn't want to come here for a real vacation probably either. That's an understatement. This doesn't count as a vacation. It's a waste of time. A chore. My parents' family is nearby and we just had to come see them. Ugh. If they're your parents' family, doesn't that make them your family too?
I guess.
That's a pretty good reason to come by. Did you want to go somewhere else? No. Jamie crossed his arms with a huff. He turned away. They should have gone by themselves since they cared so much and left me home. But I'm not allowed to be by myself. Makes no sense. They're the ones who don't know how to do anything, and I'm the kid. Who eaten your cereal this morning? Danny's lip curled and his face contorted from anger to horror.
That's disgusting.
Why would you think of something like that? It's disgusting.
Sheesh.
It's just an expression. He took a deep breath. He thought for one hope second that maybe he was calming himself down. He was not. So what? You put it in people's heads. I don't want to have to think about it, and someone brainless might decide it was a good idea and actually do it. Just real stupids out in the world, you know. You're all living proof of that. Hey!
Hey!
Not stupid. Smarter than you are. How are you gonna prove that when you're just saying one moron thing after another? You turned to Cove, lowering your voice. The two of you aren't that similar after all. Jeremy must have had good hearing though, because he caught the private exchange and scoffed.
Stupid.
Of course we're not similar. My eyebrows aren't stupid. Cove's cheek flushed crimson at the insult. He couldn't be sure if it was out of embarrassment or anger. Maybe both. Come on. You need to say that when you've got a bowl cut. Yet, it's embarrassing and awful. But my parents made me. I won't have to have it when I'm older. I don't know what I'm gonna do with those things, except maybe shave them off. You probably should. I bet you look less dumb with no eyebrows. You just rolled your eyes. His behavior was unbelievably childish. You bet this is what Elizabeth imagines when she's doing with whatever you're doing anything. Though Jeremy, he really is like a kid. Wow, what is wrong with you? Instead of taking offense, Jamie only parroted Derek's words in a nasally voice.
Wow, what is wrong with you?
Wah wah. This is dumb. Jeremy stuck out his tongue and skulked away, throwing more sand everywhere as he went. You watched him go, hunched over until he became a speck in your vision. Silence reigned in his wake. The three of you tried to process what just happened. I can't believe it. What a mean kid. Derek wasn't kidding. By the sound of those earlier complaints, the new boy Jeremy was going to be in the area for at least a little while. And this summer. Derek sighed in dismay, plopping onto the ground. He followed and Cove did too shortly after. There wasn't much else to do.
This sucks.
I was hoping we could meet someone fun. Hang out, maybe. He shook his head. After a moment, he slowly turned to you with a hopeful expression. But, you know what would really improve today? What? He didn't respond. Instead, he used his hand to point, right at the fruit arrangement that you were still holding. You'd completely forgotten about it during the mini-drama that unfolded. You had gotten used to the wait. Glancing over to Cove, you noticed he was eyeing the fruit. He must want some too. I need to save it.
Okay.
He sat, still staring at the glistening fruits, but he didn't insist further. Yeah, it is the gift for the last family after all. They should be the ones who get to have it. Sorry for asking. It's fine. Wife once more descended upon your group. Cove turns towards Pearson, a peaceful expression on his face. Hey, you two remember Land Before Time? That fruit thing makes you think of it. The dinosaurs all like the leaves that are shaped like stars. These stars.
Yeah.
Something makes it look so delicious when they did it. I love that movie. Me too. Derek didn't say anything further about dinosaurs or otherwise. For the next few minutes, the three of you watched the waves crash into the shore. Hey, Jamie? Yeah? The two of you met eyes casually.
So...
That was pretty cool. Would you say back at that guy? Oh, thanks. I was just saying what I thought. Derek chimed in while in high spirits. You totally owned him. I don't know what his parents say, but it's clearly somebody's around to tell him what's what. Yeah. Derek then leaned back on his arms. He contemplated the sky with a content sigh. So, are you both ready for summer break? Are you? Well, it feels like there's a lot to plan for. And what about you, Cove? Are you ready? I think that depends. Before you could say anything else, the light atmosphere was shattered.
Hey!
Jamie! You glanced over your shoulder to see your sister. She strode closer and closer, appearing none too pleased. I've been looking all over for you. Ma said you and Cove ran off with the thing Mr. Holden bought for us. She leered over you with arms folded. So, where is it? It's fine, right here. You turned your body to face her and held up the bouquet, proving that it was in one piece. She inspected the fruit arrangement with a small frown.
Okay.
Alright, looks good. If all you're doing is sitting around, you better take it back to the house now. It's not just for you. She grinned tauntingly, while glancing at Cove who sat right beside you. And if you are the one person who can count to the delivery boy, this is up to his dad. You seem everyone is in the mood to tease you and Cove today. Cove's cheeks became a couple shades redder, but he didn't deny the accusation. He couldn't. Everyone knew the two of you gave each other a special priority. Get going. This wasn't okay just because you hadn't done anything. Yet. Oh no, I think you're hearing the mean kid coming back. We better get out of here. Elizabeth blinked, confused, and looked around.
What?
What kid? I don't see anyone. Derek didn't bother explaining. He just launched to his feet and ran off. Cove hopped up too, gladly taking the opportunity to exit the situation. He fell after Derek, but he sent a look to you from over his shoulder. He turned to watch Elizabeth. He stared back, brow raised. You stayed. You didn't make a break for it. Instead, you carefully got out from the sand, bouquet still in hand. Once you straightened up, Elizabeth smiled affectionately over at you.
Come on.
Come on, fugitive. You nodded, then examined the fruit skewers. You wanted to make sure you hadn't been jostled by the short adventure you gone on. It still looked great. Elizabeth noticed too. You know, you could split it now and tell those boys hate it. They bail so they can go get to tell the story. Also never need to find out. You said it wasn't just for me, remember? Now you're doing the same thing. She bumped your shoulder, winking cheekily. What else is family for? You laughed together, making your way home side by side. Later that night, you found yourself seated near the kitchen counter. You and Elizabeth didn't follow through with the joke to eat everything before getting home. When the two of you returned, your mom welcomed you back. It wasn't a mention of the mini-event that unfolded. The four of you happily split the bouquet after dinner in the end. That was a while ago now. Your fingers drummed on the surface as you waited, your gaze trained on the phone. You were waiting on a call tonight, specifically from your cousin Leandra. You didn't want to miss it accidentally. Your uncle and Aunt Lee used to live many hours away. Your families only saw each other a few times a year for big occasions. A while back, though, they moved and were closer to you than ever before. You now hung out regularly. With school being out, you're positive she's going to want to come over a lot. The two of you were the same age and got along well. You used to be really fond of Elizabeth, too. But now that your sister had become allergic to interacting with their own family, it just tended to be just you and Lee who spent time together. Being family can make you close, but you had a lot of girlfriends. Even though you weren't a girl, you befriended them pretty well. You also had a lot of non-girlfriends. What kind of gender someone was didn't seem to make any difference in who you got along with. And the shrill ringtone announced an incoming call. You jumped before grabbing the receiver and pressing it to your ear. Hello?
Hi!
Hi, Jamie. It's Lee. Well, it's you. For a second there, I thought it might be one of Elizabeth's friends. You're static on the end, as if Lee was shifting wherever she was. So, can you believe school's finally over? I thought it'd never be done. Now you don't have to do any of that boring stuff and get to hang out whenever you want. Speaking of hanging out... Lee, can you wait a second? Let me just head to my room.
Oh yeah.
You got up from your seat at the counter. Luckily the phone was wireless, so you didn't have to worry about any cords tying you down. Your mom's had a rule about not moving the phone unless the call was in progress, which is why you sat by its cradle waiting for Lee to call. You thought that made sense. It was nice to keep everything in its proper place. But now that Lee had called, it was okay for you to go upstairs to your bedroom and talk to her. You made your way up the stairs, smiling. After you had arrived, you shut the bedroom door firmly behind you. You took a seat in your bed. Alright, I'm here.
Cool.
Hey, did you know? The girl down the street from me has her own phone now. A cell phone. You don't have to wait for someone else to stop using it or anything. Wow, really? I thought someone having a phone that was all their own seemed unbelievable to you. Right? Wish I had one too. My parents said I couldn't get my own phone until I'm more grown up. It's just they changed their mind. We could call each other every single day, and no one would be able to stop us. How great would that be? But wouldn't I still be using a home phone? My moms would be able to stop us if they wanted. They laughed. He didn't put a damper on their imagination.
Oh.
Well then you have your own phone too. That works. She sighed dramatically. I bet I'm not gonna get one until I'm all the way in college. Squeezing the phone between your shoulder and ear, you puffed up your pillows and made yourself more comfy. It's strange to think of a time when normal school would be over and you have to choose whether or not to go to college. School is such a big part of your life right now. You never tried much, but you still didn't do that bad. Coasting by had become routine for you. You just had warned you that you wouldn't be able to do that forever, but you figured it was enough for now. You had no plans on getting excellent scores this time around. It just wasn't something all that important to you. Yeah. You tried to sound engaged, but your mind had decided to go back into school, despite the season. You knew you too well to be fooled.
What's up?
Sounds so spacey, what's up? Just thinking about school. Lee groaned. Are you thinking about how we don't have to think about it because it's summer? That's what I'm doing. I'm looking forward to going back. You're speaking English, but I don't understand those words. You laugh, aware that many kids wouldn't voice your enjoyment of school. So I guess school isn't all the way bad. You do some good things there. You can just do more when school's out. And learning new things can be cool. I just wish everyone did okay with how you taught the things, not just some people.
Me too.
The cafeteria lunches at my school could be better than they had any right to be. Lucky, mine's boring. But that was all. And that's pretty much everything that's good about school. Okay, point taken.
Alright.
Now I decree the topic of school is officially closed. We had to talk about that this summer first before we start planning the rest of our lives. I got some plans already. Like? I'm gonna visit my cousins. You chuckled, of course. What's something you want to do? The first thing that comes to your head. What does Jamie want to do this summer? Probably I'll spend time at the beach. I could have guessed that one. You lean back into your bed, settling in as you continued chatting with your friend. Even though it hadn't been that long since you saw her and you'd be seeing her soon, you found plenty to talk about. For one, the events of the day. He sat up straighter. I was with Cove and Derek today, and we met a new kid. Like at your neighborhood? Hmm? His parents are visiting family, so it sounds like he'll be around for a little while. I don't know how long. What's he like? Creepy. He gets snapping at us. We're all trying to do is talk to him. It's like no matter what we said, he was gonna find a way to make the worst of it. I don't think I want to meet him. You want a boy to stay away before you meeting him? That's an unexpected twist. Your cousin was pretty popular with the boys who knew her. Seemed happy enough to have them around until they started to annoy her. Hey, who are you to talk? You give practically all your attention to boys. Or maybe just one boy. Let's see how much you like, Cove. You got me. Lee laughed at your affirmation, deeply amused. You shut your eyes tightly, feeling embarrassed about her reaction. There was a stomping noise approaching your room, heralding the arrival of your irritated older sister. You flung the door open, a frown etched on her face. The little adventure from earlier hadn't gotten you any goodwill this time, it seemed.
Come on.
How long are you gonna hog the phone? Glancing at your watch, you realized that your quick call had gone on much longer than anticipated. Elizabeth held out her hand, the other one lodged on your hip. You noticed the realization on your face. Time's up. With a sigh, you said your goodbyes to Lee. Lee, I have to go now.
Bye.
Okay, see you soon. Elizabeth and your mom just said hi too. You barely pressed the end call button when Elizabeth whisked the handset from your fingers and began dialing someone new as she strode out of the room. Your mom's voice came from downstairs. Hey, has anyone seen the phone? I'm using it! With that, she shut the door behind you. Silence was left in the wake. That was one way to end your first day of summer break. Sometime later, it had gotten dark outside, and you laid in bed wide awake. The window rattled all of a sudden, startling you badly. You flinched, staring over at it with real embarrassed. From your vantage point, you saw only the moon and an open sky. You were... annoyed. What caused that noise? Sighing heavily, you sat up and moved closer to the window. You might as well find a reason behind the disturbance. To your utter shock, your gaze was met by a pair of familiar ocean blue eyes. Cove? You squinted. Yep, it was right outside your window. Your house was very angular, and some parts stuck out further than others, so it theoretically wouldn't be hard to climb around on. Still, just because somebody could didn't mean you expected it to ever happen. To his credit, Cove was doing just fine. His feet were braced against a section of the wall that jutted out, his arms flexing with the effort of keeping it upright. He easily lifted a hand and waved at you from the other side of the glass. You hurriedly opened the window. Cove climbed over the ledge, releasing a breath once he was safely inside.
Hey.
Hi, Jamie. everything okay? What happened? This is not okay. I needed to talk to you and couldn't wait until tomorrow. If I rang the doorbell, I knew your moms would have answered and they'd just make me go home. I didn't really want to explain why I was coming over anyway. I don't want to talk about it. Well, besides with you, I mean. But that's why I did that. As unexpected as this was, your touch Cove felt like he could tell you what was wrong. I might have tried calling or something, except my dad was on the phone. Cove suddenly looked very cross. Yeah, he was talking to my mom. Still is, probably. You raised your eyebrows. Cove has eavesdropped on his parents' phone conversation? You shouldn't have done that. Eavesdropping is bad. Cove pursed his lips, considering your words, then he sighed. I was gonna hear about it when they were done. It was about me. Are you gonna stay with your mom for a while again? Every year, Cove was sent off to live with his mom for a few weeks. When it happened varied. Sometimes he would go during winter break, but usually he went during summer. Even though it was hard news when you found out he was leaving and you missed seeing him those weeks, you understood. You're surprised, however, he shook his head. That's what I thought too, but no. That's not what they were saying. My dad asked my mom not to have me leave this year. He said she could come stay with us here. He waited for him to continue. He didn't. The conversation abruptly dropped off. You couldn't help but stare at Cove. There's a complicated mix of expressions on his face. Is she gonna say what she would do? She told him she'd come. I know she's coming soon before school starts. Oh. I heard Cove talk about his mom a lot over the years. He'd tell you about past memories or what happened while he was visiting her. So it was one thing to hear about someone and another to actually meet them. Very soon you're gonna see Cove's mom in person. You're taken aback by the news, so you can only imagine how Cove felt. You looked over at him. He was pacing across your room, his features maiden for dread. Before they barely stayed in the same room long enough to have lunch. Now we're gonna be all together again. 3 of us after all this time? Just for a few weeks. I know I should probably be happy they can talk to each other now. I'm still not. I'm just confused and freaked out. And I feel really bad for feeling this way. Jamie, so... His fist tightened and his eyes became misty. I shouldn't keep getting like this. It's been a long time already, I'm not a little kid. But he wouldn't meet your eyes. He knew he was waiting for you to say something. We can deal with this. Cove's expression cleared a little. Thanks. I'm actually really glad I came over to see you. A momentary silence fell over the two of you. We know about how the day started. They'd woken up eager for summer vacation, but now things seem so crazy. Made debacle of Mr. Holden's gift, newest addition to the neighborhood being so rude. And as if all of that wasn't enough, now Cove's mom would be living with Cove and his dad again. Your whole life was kind of like that, it seemed. Complicated and hard and different. Why couldn't things just get better with time? Jamie? The sound of your name said quietly, "What do you from your thoughts?" Cove gazed at you concerned.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. You meant it. You knew some things were still good. Cove grinned reassuringly. It was small and delicate, but you knew it was genuine. Moonlight from outside cast shadows across his face and lit up his eyes. It seemed to sparkle with his smile. Just that one look brightened your mood somewhat. You know, I think I don't want to talk anymore about this. He looked away, his lips staying into a line, and rubbed at his arms. But I kinda don't want to go back home either. Could I stay a little longer, just doing something else? He appeared equal parts hopeful and vulnerable. How could you possibly turn him away? Of course. You can always stay over here, Cove. He smiled shyly, your voice as tentative as his was. But you meant what you said. Cove perked up at your response, a smile appearing on his face. He immediately took a seat in your bed, not afraid to get comfortable in your room. You felt a little better at the sight, somehow. You still had a lot of worries, but you were glad he was here. And not just tonight. You're glad he came into your life in the first place. That was a change you'd never want to undo. It felt totally natural to let him into your little world. You fit into it like a missing piece of the puzzle, and you were certain in your room to get even closer. You joined Cove on your bed, taking a seat across with him. He smiled at you again, but you could tell this time he was half-hearted. He is so easy to read. Though he didn't want to talk about his mom and dad, he must be thinking about what happened and what's about to happen. He smiled gently at him. He had no idea how to make him feel better, though he wanted to try anyway. Hopefully your presence was helping. The conversation was stilted and broken, often by silence at first. Then both of you were able to get into your usual candor. As your secret hangout session stretched on, you thought that you truly wanted to keep having moments like this with him. You hoped the day would never come when life decided that the two of you would have to part ways, and you knew Cove felt the same. You opened your tired eyes, groaning as they adjusted to the bright light that was streaming through your window and warming your olive skin. With a loud yawn, you rolled away from the sunlight and blinked a couple of times, fearing to sleep in your eyes, before realizing with a start that it was actually morning. You can remember even falling asleep. Cove had crept to your window during the night, and two of you spent time together trying not to wake your parents. You must have fallen asleep while you were hanging out, but couldn't put a finger on exactly when. You wonder how late Cove had stayed before heading home. You rubbed your face and yawned again, contemplating whether you should get out of bed and get ready for the day, or stay snuggled up for a little while longer. Until your gaze landed on an instantly recognizable mop of pale green hair, when you bolted upright and gasped in surprise. He never left! You're still here! In the morning! You jumped out of bed. Your feet hit the floor faster than the speed of flight, though Cove remained asleep. He had fallen asleep while sitting on the ground and precariously laying his head on the side of your mattress. It was like your leap hadn't caused him to fall over. But you certainly couldn't stay like that. You knew you had to wake him up before your parents or Elizabeth waltzed into your room. With that in mind, you also had to get him out of here quietly. You whispered in his ear. Cove, wake up! You whispered his name softly but urgently, and his eyes snapped open as he woke with a start. You scrambled out of the way as he abruptly jumped to his feet before almost losing his balance falling back down. He recovered just as quickly and faced you indignantly.
Hey!
What was that for? Shh. Huh? The situation dawned on him too before he even finished a word. Cove blinked at you a couple of times, his eyes growing in panic as some thought that only he could hear settled in his mind.
Oh my god!
I fell asleep! You weren't exactly sure what to do as you watched Cove pace your room, looking around frantically. Cove's hands flew into his face, letting out a sigh of relief when he found his glasses right where they were supposed to be. Despite that, he hadn't calmed down completely. The atmosphere was still frazzled. It's gonna be alright. You just need to leave before anyone notices you're here. If you knew, we would have heard about it already. Cove nodded, his shoulders tensed as he fixed you with a firm stare with his turquoise eyes. Letting out a heavy sigh, he ran a hand through his hair in exasperation. He couldn't look you again as he spoke. I'll see you later. You're confused by how all this had played out, but hope that was true. Bye. At that, he glanced at you once more. The expression was placid. In all the panic, he was stopped ever so briefly by a moment of clarity. Thanks. Again. You're a good friend, Jamie. A really good friend. He firmly whispered the words, so there was no room to doubt he meant it. But he turned away from you before you had a chance to respond or even fully react. In a matter of seconds, he had climbed over your bed and opened the window. A cool breeze rolled off the ocean, blowing through Cove's hair and filling the room with a salty scent. Cove fiercely stepped onto the ledge. You urged him to hurry up. Sorry, but you have to leave now. You weren't sure if he heard you or not, but he kept going along, one in front of the other with increasing speed, until his form disappeared out of sight. You stuck your head out the window as far as it could go, keeping watch. Ignore this, please. He walked the full length of the ledge before jumping down to the top of the garage, then lowering himself onto the fence. Then there he finally dropped to the ground. You grinned at the sight of his successful climb. He went up towards his house without stopping, disappearing behind the side of another building. You have to admit, you're pretty impressed on how doable he made that look. Cove always seemed to have a way of seeming so smooth without even meaning to. With a little sigh, you reclosed your window. Deciding there was nothing more you could do, you hopped off your bed and got ready to head downstairs for the day. You made your bed. It was a habit of yours. You straightened up your sheets, smoothed over your comforter, and fluffed your pillows before stepping back and admiring your work. You took the stairs, slowly attempting to mask your face into a look of innocence. You were sure that someone would have come to your room if they had heard anything strange, but you couldn't be too careful. You had to play it cool. When you stepped into the living room, Elizabeth was there, tapping her finger on the counter. Good morning, Elizabeth. She looked you over immediately, her eyes squinting at the greeting.
Why?
Why are you being so weird? You hadn't even done anything! Your big sister never missed a beat, unfortunately. You stopped in your tracks, heart pounding in your chest as you wondered if she could see the sweat that was building around your temples. Jamie? You shrugged it off. I'm not. You spoke so nonchalantly, you almost thought she believed you. But she knew better. Her was suspicious squinting at Kurt as she waited for something. But ultimately, she rolled her eyes, and you weren't sure if you were in trouble or not. She didn't seem to care enough to dig any further. Whatever. And as she walked straight out of the front door, letting it slam shut behind her, you let out a brief sigh. Elizabeth went out most days to hang out with their friends from school around town. Said you were extra glad for it. They were also grateful she hadn't left the house any sooner and whispering in the cove. Felt like you were getting away with that. Breakfast was eaten in peace, and alone. Your moms were both out by the time you gotten up. They left you a serving of food from the breakfast they made. Hash browns, an omelet, fruit salad, and there was a few sausage links. You took a little bit of everything. It was tasty. You appreciated that there was a variety in the meals your moms made. They lazily drifted by at home and eventually your parents returned. You pulled open the fridge again, lingering in the frosty air for a moment or two before grabbing a bottle of ice-cold water and taking a long drink. It was a perfect, balmy summer afternoon. You had decided to head outdoors and find something to do. You hadn't decided what that something was just yet, but you were sure something would pop up to occupy your time. As you were heading out the front door, you paused for a moment. You hadn't seen Cove since he had left that morning, and you couldn't help but think about what happened to him. Would it be bad to go over to his house right now, or to call him to check in? You stepped out of your house, still stuck in an internal debate with yourself, when a voice caught your attention.
Hi!
Hi, Jamie! Confused, you looked over to where an unrecognizable woman was waving at you, a friendly smile plastered on your face. You racked your memory for where you might have seen her before, but nothing came to mind. Not your school, or from the country club your moms took you to. You have absolutely no idea who the woman was. The woman crossed the road towards you, and you're a little unsure whether you should stay put or go back into the house and lock the door. Oops, I'm sorry. Was that presumptuous? I heard about you, but you have no idea who I am, do you? You shook your head and removed her sunglasses to reveal sparkly ocean blue eyes. All of a sudden, she seemed a little more familiar. My son lives here. And my ex, too. With a bent smile, she lifted a hand to point at the condo across the street from your own house. She was Cove's mom! You didn't know why you hadn't realized sooner, now that you gotten a good look at her. It made sense that she was Cove's mom. They had the same eyes and other physical traits in common. No matter your thoughts on her, you still felt taken aback that she had appeared here so suddenly. Cove mentioned she was coming, but you hadn't gotten an impression it would be the very next day. You extended a hand again, this time for you to take, and you studied the manicured fingers in front of your face and the assortment of bracelets that dangled from her wrist. I'm Kyra Priest. You can call me Kyra. You didn't shake her hand. She looked a little sad that her gesture wasn't mirrored, taking back her hand and running it through her long hair, but she grinned sympathetically. You already knew my name?
That I do.
Phil was mentioning to me before. Is I still officially meet you, Jamie? Phil talked about you to his mom. He hadn't mentioned how he said things about you to her. Nice to meet you too. She smiled at you fondly, her eyes crinkling at the corners. The sound of a door opening and closing caught both of your attentions, and when you turned towards the sound, it was to find Cove exiting his house, his eyes skimming the ground. Considering just how tall he had grown, you kind of figured his mom also would have been tall, but she was much more on the short side for an adult anyway. Cove's height must have come from his father.
My baby!
There you are! I thought you were going to keep me staying out here all day. You tried to catch Cove's eye as he walked towards you, but his gaze was firmly fixed on the sidewalk. When he finally crossed the road and looked up, he gave you a pitiful look. After the way he had acted last night, you knew you must be feeling pretty mixed up about this. You tried to wordlessly express that you understood. So why are you heading into town to grab something to eat while the snore is at work? Kyra beamed at Cove and ruffled his hair, which only seemed to upset him more. He assumed the snore she was talking about was Mr. Holden. Hey, you should come with us, Jamie. I'd love to get to know you better. Yeah, you should come. There was a pleading in his tone that you couldn't miss. Of course, we're run it by your parents first. Responsibility and all that.
Any whoosies?
They'll give me an excuse to meet them, which I need to do at some point. It's important to meet neighborly if I'm going to be roosting on the street for the time being. Any koozies, let's go! Kara walked ahead towards your house, and you hung back with Cove, who crinkled his nose as you watched her.
Sorry.
I'm sorry about her, but I really do want you to come. I don't want it to be just the two of us. Not right now. He leaned in closer and whispered, while checking around for anyone he might hear. What happened? Did your dad know you were gone? Cove shook his head and sighed heavily. Yeah, I was so focused on Mom showing up, and didn't even notice. I thought when I heard them on the phone last night that it was something they were planning for the future. This morning Dad said it was supposed to be a surprise, and I guess I was surprised. He's gonna be here all summer. Oh. You were surprised to hear that too. Cove sighed again, even heavier. I'll go with you if you really want me to. He smiled, his shoulders relaxing a little in relief. Thanks, that'd be cool. The two of you headed over to where Cove's mom had just knocked on your front door and stood behind her. Mom answered the door after a minute, her eyebrows lifting in surprise at the group she found in front of her. You realized that, like you, she would have no idea that was Cove's mom who was hanging with you. However, after blinking at the woman a couple of times and looking between her and Cove, the realization seemed to strike on her. Hello there, I'm Pamela.
I see.
I see you've met my kid, Jamie. I'm guessing you've already known Cove for a while. Kyra laughed, and you and Cove exchanged a look at your parents' weird sense of humor. I'm Kyra Priest, Cove's mom. It's so nice to meet you. A head of purple-brown hair caught your eye as Ma popped up behind Mom, facing herself, and beside her. We have company. I was wondering what all the commotion was. She grinned excitedly at Kyra. The two of them introduced themselves and shook hands.
Hello.
Hi, Jamie. Cove. Cove smiled at Ma shyly, and she gestured a hand towards the living room. There's Elsie's hanging around in the doorway. Why don't you come in? I'd love to, but I promised to take my son out to eat, and I wouldn't want to hold you up with a surprise visit. Oh, I understand. You're welcome to stop by any time.
Of course.
I'll take you up on an offer when I can. Count on it. Would you mind too much if Jamie went with Cove and I? My treat. We won't be driving, just a quick walk down the road. Sure, that sounds nice.
Have fun.
I hope you all have fun. You gave your moms a look, and they smiled at you fondly. You were happy they were letting you go. You could tell that Cove really needed the support, and you were ready to be there for him.
Marvelous.
Set this back in an hour or two. We look forward to seeing you again. Take care. Your parents waved goodbye to the three of you as you backed up into the street. There's a sound of the front door closing behind you. I'm pretty positive I saw some restaurants when I was in the taxi, not too far from here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tourist town, isn't it? There's a lot of them around. It's kind of strange to see Cove give someone this much attitude. If he wasn't in the mood to be nice, he generally just kept to himself. Kara put her hands on her hips and smiled at her son. Well, you sound like the area expert. Do you have any recommendations for a place nearby? Not really. Kara pouted at him a little and turned to you instead. How about you, Jamie? Want to point me in the right direction? You shrugged. You've been to a lot of places in town, but none of them really stood out. Well, let's head into town and see what we can find. Will you show us the way? You nodded, taking the lead of your little group as Cove and his mom followed behind you. Together, the three of you left the neighborhood behind. You walked around for a little while, looking at the different options and gazing to the various shop windows. Most of the restaurants you passed were filled with guests already, sampling the town's various food places. When you headed past a familiar place with gold writing on the glass and a red lacquered roof that you always admired, you started to slow down. My family comes here all the time. It's really good.
Come on.
I think we have a winner. I always love Chinese food. Let's go in. The restaurant was busy as usual, but luckily you were shown right to a small table. Kara lowered herself in the chair while Cove picked the one diagonal to her, not facing her to her side. It was awkward. Let's see, to start, what you all like to drink? I'll get an orange soda.
Noted.
Jamie? What does Jamie want to drink? Also a soda. Which flavor? Cola. Sure. Kara placed the order for your drinks, getting a black hot coffee for herself, and it didn't take long before they were brought to the table and sat in front of you. You took a long sip of your drink as you looked around the restaurant. A small group checked over the menus. They decided to order the usual thing. You've been to this restaurant many times, so you knew what was good and what wasn't already. Kara and Cove didn't need any encouragement for this. They were totally focused on the information in front of them. Soon the meals too were ordered and the menus taken away. You glanced at the table surface, waiting to figure out what to say. Cove slumped back further into his seat and avoided eye contact. He started to twiddle his thumbs while acting like it was all perfectly normal. His sour feelings today were unignorable. Instead of asking more open questions, he'd brush off Kara. And Kara had mercy on her son and instead put her focus towards you.
So?
Jamie, there's a few things that you're into. There's gotta be something you do for fun, especially now that you're not buried in school assignments. Okay, what? Mr. Jamie's hobbies. Fashion. Oh, fashion boy. Oh, makeup. Right, this is a fun experiment with looks. And you know, this makes sense for our Jamie, with all this new hair and stuff. And... alright, things. I feel a writer. Writing is a great form of expression, don't you think? Kara sighed wistfully, her eyes going soft. I still spend time studying. Studying in summer? I have to admit I don't know a lot of people who enjoy that, but hard work is the key to getting what you want in life. How many hobbies is he gonna have? I hang out with people. It's nice to have friends and family to spend time with. I'm really in the Cove. I let out a sudden laugh and gasped beside you. It was dramatic enough to inhale that you almost choked on the soda. You felt your cheeks going red. You mentioned it in a normal way, but it sounded weird saying it out loud. Jamie? Cove whispered at you disapprovingly, obscuring part of his face with a hand, but Kara only waved him off and encouraged you to go on. All I meant was I like hanging out with Cove. That's it. Well, we have something in common. Kara smiled at Cove, who didn't look too impressed by you at that moment. I like to watch movies. Kara nodded her head and you guessed you must like that too. And stand-up comedy. Cool, cool. And I spend time on art. Sculpting. We learned how to make clay sculptures at school. I love doing it ever since. And like free. Non-fiction books. But you know a lot about things then. And comic books. Oh, just like Cove's daddy back in the day. And fiction novels. Me too. Phoebe's growing up with a good book. And I heard in this conversation for all of us, Cove. Music. I play the violin. It's a beautiful instrument. Jamie's a real fancy boy. And games are fun. I like to play card games. I like card games too. Maybe we can all play together sometime. And board games. That's great. We should all play a game together sometime. All the games, video games. I don't know much about them. Maybe you can show me sometime. And I'm into sports. And he didn't say anything else.
Thanks!
I'm about to learn more about you. There's so much I hadn't heard. I'll please the details out. So what exactly did Cove say about me? Carol laughed, holding her hand in front of her mouth. I can't tell you that. I didn't come all this way to embarrass my son. Too much. Kids are delicate at this age. He laughed again and he glanced at Cove to see his reaction. He was trying not to pay attention, but you could tell he was uncomfortable. Hoping it would clear some of the tension in the air, you decided to ask Kara a few questions of your own. Cove hadn't told you much about her, and you're curious to know more about this woman who had such a big part in his life. What exactly do you do for work? I'm a travel writer for magazines and things. I keep people in the loop on what's worth seeing. It's good work. Wow. What do you like to do? Spend time with my little boy, of course. And traveling. Real shock, huh? You couldn't bring yourself to ask another question. It didn't seem to bother her that the conversation dropped off. Cove sipped his soda angrily, slurping up the remaining drink with furrowed brows. He looked ready to run straight out of the restaurant. We weren't sure if coming along had ended up making the lunch better or worse. You made a silly face at him. You stared at Cove until you glanced at you in annoyance, then you lifted your nose with a finger and poked at your tongue. It took a couple moments, but finally he cracked a smile, and it made you feel a little lighter inside.
Very cute!
You two seem really cute together. Cove covered his face with his hands and leaned back into his seat.
Seriously?
Ugh, Mom, why would you say that? He just laughed. That was definitely unexpected, and there didn't seem to be any other way you could react. Emails were delivered shortly after that, and everything was so delicious, even Cove enjoyed his food.
Okay!
Alright, now that we're all full and content, can you explain, please, why you had a bug up your butt all day? Cove's face scrunched at that. Seriously, baby, what did Mom do to make you this mad? I haven't even been around a full day yet. He gripped the edge of the table, refusing to make eye contact. The words he spoke were barely audible over the din of the restaurant. You could have told me. He leaned forward to not miss anything else, eyebrows raised. Told you what? He finally seemed to find his voice and spoke the thoughts that had been on his mind. That I wasn't gonna visit you this year, that you were gonna be coming instead. Didn't you invite me? You wanted me here with you. Joe's eyes began to shake and his frustration ebbed. I do want you to be around, but I didn't know it'd be like this. It's not the same and nobody said anything.
I see.
Her expression grew tense. She threaded her fingers together and placed her hands in front of her on the table. You will been gifted another Clifford surprise. Referring to that as a Clifford surprise almost caused both you and Cove to crack a smile. He also had no idea his name wasn't just Cliff. Over 5 years nobody ever called him Clifford until now. She smoothed her hair out, not letting go of her stern look. More things change, the more they stay the same. They let out identical sighs, but smiled weakly at one another afterwards.
I'm sorry.
I can go home, Cove. I can still set up the normal chick to my place before the summer ends. Both lips tightly closed together. He seriously pondered the option.
I mean,
I think I do want you to stay. I miss it when you're not there. My heart. She reached across the gap, grabbed his face, and planted a kiss on his cheek. Cove tried to wiggle away. Mom, stop! I'm sorry. Sweet young men do smooshed by their parents. If I don't, they'll take away my mom's license. I was completely enthused by Cove's submission, though a tone of seriousness did return to her voice when the conversation continued. Do you want to talk to your dad too?
no!
Cove had snapped the word instantly, but reeled his annoyance back just as quickly. Maybe later, not today.
It's alright.
I understand. We can shelve it. Thanks, Mom. Thank you for talking to me, little mister. She grinned affectionately at him before turning away. And thank you, Jamie. Huh? What did I do? It's easy to act like a baby with your mom. It's hard to keep that up with your neighbor watching everything. Especially when you really care about what said neighbor thinks of you. She winked. Mom! She ruffled his hair with a laugh. He moved her hand down to tap the end of his nose. And that was how the issue was resolved, at least between Cove and his mom. When the three of you left the restaurant and Cairo had paid the bill, you walked back to your neighborhood slowly. You had eaten so much by that time you were beginning to feel sleepy. It didn't help that lunch had happened late and the sun was already beginning to descend from the sky. But eventually you reached your street. Someone was there to greet your group upon arrival. Welcome back, family! And Jamie, too.
Huh.
Cliff. Dad. The two walked past him into the condo without sparing another word. Despite the summer heat, their shoulders were cold. Uh-oh, I'm in trouble. He rubbed the back of his neck with a crooked smile, but his eyes were soft as he looked on after them. He's so much like his mom, don't you think? He gave a vague nod, not sure what he was expecting you to do. He nodded back, far more energetically. Okay, have a nice night, Jamie. You too, Mr. Holden. With that, Cove's dad disappeared to join the others inside. It was your turn to go home now. Summer hadn't started off at all like how you imagined it would have, though it turned out to set the tone well. Having Cairo in the neighborhood was a new experience for not only you and Cove, but also both your families, and a dull moment was rarely had. And that was just the intro. See which one went. Going on a road trip. Even though you were awake, the sun had barely peeked its head above the horizon and the sky above was still dark, though lightning might have in it. Usually you wouldn't be up so early, especially during summer vacation, but today was different. Today, instead of the lazy days you were used to, everything around you was a flurry of activity as both your family and Cove's prepared for what lay ahead. Because parked in the street just outside your house was a massive RV camper, so big you couldn't even see Cove's house behind it. His parents had rented the RV for a few days to take him on a short road trip to see the Redwood National Park. He glanced at Cove, who was standing nearby taking in the scene in front of him. The prospect of the trip had to be a mixed bag for him. It was only 3 days, so it seemed he was dealing with it the best he could. Especially now that you and your family were joining them. You weren't sure how exactly it had happened. You knew your parents and Cove spoke to each other often, and somewhere along the way plans were made after Cliff offered to share space. Your parents all thought it was a fantastic idea. You had already gotten the good luck inside while helping to load everything in. You had to admit that while it was a really big car, getting that many people inside was going to be snug.
Let's go.
We will lose it, kiddo! Mom bustled past with a cooler in one hand and a large bottle of water on the other. She was upbeat for this early in the morning. Ma, however, seemed to be on the other side of the wavelength. She followed behind her wife, dragging her feet on every step. I'm gonna need a whole jug of coffee once we hit the road. First thing you're wearing as ready to go as your mom. You stretched your arms out and took in some deep breaths. The air was still a little damp from dew, but you didn't mind it. And then at the end of the chain came your sister. She had a bone to pick before the trip officially started. Her riding off her cheeks added some level of normalcy to everything new going on.
Ugh.
I don't get why I can't sleep in the bed tonight. Jamie's the youngest, and I'll never fall asleep in that loft. You're trying to make things fair on everyone. If you want to play the older card, you should be offering to take the loft both nights. It's important for big siblings to make sacrifices for their younger ones. Elizabeth huffed, not happy with that answer in the slightest, and folded her arms, leaning back against the side of the RV. The trip plans had been nailed down prior, the sleeping arrangements included. Elizabeth still held on to her objections with them. There was a main area of the RV with a couch, loft, and some floor space. At the end of the car was a room with a large bed. Your moms were sharing the bed. Kara was on the couch, and father and son intended to sleep on the floor. The adults determined you and Elizabeth would switch between the small loft above the driver's seat and sharing the bed with moms. You're fine with the arrangement. As long as you had a place to rest your head of some description, it didn't bother you. Alright, you lot, does everyone have everything you need? Head out in 5 minutes. Now's the time to double check. You don't want to forget something important. With the word, Elizabeth yelped and dashed back into the house, her head hair bouncing higher on her as she went. Paul came over and gave you a smile, settling your hands on her hips. How about you, Jamie? You have all your clothes packed? Toiletries? Deodorant? Floss? Anything else you could think of? You were confident you had it all. Wanted to make sure everything was organized and ready to go. You had packed the night before and set your alarm too. Yep, I'm good. That's great. I had to wait for the ones who weren't as organized, but we'll be heading off shortly. With a few minutes left to spare before leaving, you mentally went over what you had packed for the trip. Clothes, a pillow and blanket, usual day-to-day gear for most people. You also have more personal things, such as your favorite stuffed animal. Without fail, it always made you feel more comfortable wherever you went somewhere new. Like taking a little piece of home away with you. A couple things to read. You packed one of your old favorites and a new one you never tried before. You usually have plenty of time for them both on such a long drive. Bag of makeup. You kind of dreaded the idea of trying to apply it nicely well in the cramped RV, but it was something you wanted to keep on hand. Pencils and paper. You had to be prepared in case you saw something to sketch at the park, or if you had to write anything down, or if you needed to pass time just doodling. And that was everything. Hey, let me take that for you, Jamie. I'll store it in the RV. There's a few spots left that'll fit. You let Kyra take your bag and gave her a grateful smile. With nothing left to do, you watched the others getting ready for the trip. Kyra and Cliff seemed to have most energy of anyone. You're finishing packing the suitcases away while your mom had gone to lock up the house. You high five whenever one another got crammed into the storage compartment of the vehicle. Even though your own parents were more low-key than Cove's, you can tell they were both excited for the trip. It had been a while since your family had been away anywhere together. Elizabeth skipped towards the RV, her bag slung over her shoulder, and you're surprised to see she seemed more optimistic about the whole ordeal now. Usually she wasn't one to exit the confines of her room unless it was for TV or food or to leave her family behind to be with friends. You would have thought 3 whole days packed in an RV with 6 others would be too much for her. But it was a nice surprise. She supposed any vacation was better than no vacation in her mind. Cove had been pretty quiet so far. And more than anything, he used to be overwhelmed by the situation. You weren't very excited for the trip either. You like being at home and would rather find things to do around your town. The miscellaneous remained tested up and wrapped up. Everyone piled into the RV. It's officially time for the trip to start. And it did. Cliff took the first shift driving. He cautiously navigated the massive car out the narrowing neighborhood streets. It was touch and go for the first part of the journey. Your moms and Kara were all huddled at the front, trying to get a view of how much space they had on each side. There was a sense of relief when the first long leg of the trip was hit, and the RV would only need to go down one stretch of highway for miles. The small group cleared out the driver's area, leaving Cove's dad to do it, taking more comfortable seats around the main cabin. You felt like you could finally relax now, too. Time slipped by as morning faded away. Before you realized it, the engine of the RV came to a stop, Only halted for a few moments as Cliff climbed out of the driver's seat and Mom took over. Mom was shooting the shotgun, giving Mom a quick tutorial on the controls that it was her first time driving anything this large. Cliff groaned as he headed towards the rest of you, stretching his arms above his head and loosening up his muscles. Making good progress. Yeah, maybe you should take a nap in the back for a while. That's a long haul you just did. I know you're less seat than usual. Cliff waved the hand the trademark grin of his sleeping on the place.
Nah.
I don't need sleep. I still got a few miles on the fuel tank. He flexed an arm, showing off his muscles to drive the point about how resilient he was at home, and Kyra rolled her eyes in amusement. Yeah, everyone has to sleep. Cove shook his head at the tough guy act, but Cliff simply chuckled and rubbed his son's hair.
So?
Are you journey driving again anytime soon, Mr. Holden? Oh, I know, so I can prepare. Do you want to pack some rope? I might need it. There's no seatbelts up here. Elizabeth called down from where she was slouching on the loft above the driving compartment. Just laying on her back, her hair falling over to the side and swinging around as the RV started up again and took off down the road. Her bag of potato chips was balanced on Elizabeth's stomach, and she tossed a couple in her mouth, right as Cliff held a hand to his chest, pretending to be offended by the remark. Kara laughed hardly.
Don't worry about that.
Lucky for all of us, you have enough adults to cover shifts today. You'll be driving again until tomorrow. Please stay quiet. He didn't have anything to add to the conversation, but it was pretty funny all the same. Mom then shouted back in her seat to join the conversation, a playful smile twisting her lips. What I'm worried about is this old monster getting this there and back again before falling apart. Most of those built in the early 90s. You'll see older than some of the occupants. This is just an aesthetic of the decor. It's not that old. I think. Did you ask what year the model was before you rented it? Kara wrinkled her nose and thought.
Hey!
Yes, I did. I just can't remember what the answer was. Cliff chuckled at her, while the rest of you let out a collective sigh. The RV lurched a little as it picked up speed, and you held onto the ladder to the loft to keep your balance. You felt something graze the top of your head before a weight settled on your brown hair. When you tilted your chin up carefully to look, you heard the rustling of the bag of chips and realized Elizabeth had rested the end of it on your head. She gestured to the opening, silently offering to share a snack. You took a handful. Reaching up, you scooped up some chip. And at the weight of the packet left your scalp. You happily munched away as the conversation continued on and you got closer and closer to your destination. The day flew by, with the group of you chatting, playing games, and passing time together before finally arriving at the park and setting up for the night. Mom was closing the windows while everyone got ready for bed, saying goodnight to the others as she made her way to the back room. You all had dinner together while still driving, and some hours after you had arrived at your destination and found a spot to park in for the rest of your stay. Given a look across the front of the RV, you noticed almost everyone there was already dozing off where they were, with Cove having completely fallen asleep, curled up in the passenger seat. He must have done so while Kyra was driving the last leg, and they had decided not to disturb him. Kyra herself was the only one up there was still awake, flipping through a magazine next to a portable light from her spot on the couch. It seemed Mr. Holden needed to sleep despite his claims. You followed your moms into the back room and closed the door behind you before crawling into the bed between them. It was a queen-size bed, so there was enough space for the three of you together without too much squishing.
Good night.
Yeah, get rest, Jamie. We got a big day ahead of us tomorrow.
That's fantastic.
I'm looking forward to the bushwalk in the morning. It's been a long time since I was out in nature like this. There'll be plenty for us to see. You stayed awake for a little while longer while your moms whispered about the park and the forest in general. With the sound of their voices in the background, eventually you nodded up to sleep. The next morning, you're up bright and early, preparing for the day ahead. You had slept terribly. There hadn't been enough room for you to spread out or readjust your position. The mattress was uncomfortable and it became hot with two other people next to you. Mom whined a bit about the firmness of the mattress, but Mom had only encouraged her to enjoy the trip while she could. While looking for a spot to get ready, you had some trouble finding a space of your own as the others were doing the same thing. Moses perched on top of the counter, brushing his hair and tucking up his legs every time someone wanted to move fast. Your parents were checking, double checking, and triple checking that you had everything to the point where you had stopped listening to them altogether. You knew you wouldn't be returning to the RV at all that day, but by the look in the backpacks they were packed up and ready to go, you doubted anything was missing from them. It didn't take much long until you all exited the RV in a bustle and headed into the Redwood National Park.
Wow.
Cove had his head tilted up towards the canopy of the trees, his eyes wide as he took in the massive trunks on either side of you. You knew that the redwood trees here were considered the tallest trees on Earth, but you weren't prepared for exactly how huge they would be in person.
Come on!
Smile, you two! You spun just in time for Kara to snap a picture of you and Cove together before she pointed her camera at Cliff, trying to get a shot despite his weak protest that she should just enjoy the moment. Your parents were walking behind the group a little while, and Mom telling Ma some information she had read about the park in the brochure. Ma listened happily while looking around and taking in the sights, every now and then asking a question or making a joke about something Mom had said. You smiled at them, thinking your mom must have read a lot of pamphlets to know so much about the park. Maybe you should come and work here as a tour guide if you know so much about the place. Elizabeth teased, earning a squeeze on the nose from your mom. You seemed to be enjoying yourself, but you thought that might just be because she was amused by everyone else's reactions. You weren't as impressed as the others. Everything you could see for miles around were bigger than usual trees. You didn't understand what was so great about the place. You also set aside on some casual nature walks rather than any serious hiking, and you strolled along your own pace, taking in the scenery. Elizabeth sped up a little, sprinting at Cove as she fell into place between the two of you, and immediately you could tell by her expression she was gonna say something taunting.
Ah.
I can't believe our families are actually on vacation together. She threw her arms out, speaking with a genuine sense of bewilderment. I would have joked about something like this happening, but now I'm not sure I want to give them any more ideas. Cove spared her a look, but said nothing, and instead continued walking along. Just watch, next year they'll be talking about their next new amazing idea. You put in a fake voice, deeper in her own. We should just sell both our houses and move in together, thinking of how much we save on mortgage. You scared that Elizabeth was being sarcastic. Cove simply shook his head, not really bothered by her. You suppose he was used to it by this point. But seriously, they really do act like we're a single family just because we live across the street from each other. Elizabeth gave you and Cove a look, her eyes glinting with mischief as she leered at you.
Yeah.
Maybe one day we'll be related, legally anyway. She said it as though she was a gossipy old lady. Michelle immediately dropped the tone and nonchalantly said her real thoughts. At least that's what Ma thinks. Cove still blushed, which made Elizabeth smile triumphantly, as though that was her whole purpose for teasing him. Then he mumbled quietly, refusing to make contact with either of you. I don't know why you think you're so funny when no one else does. You ignored Elizabeth. You said nothing, choosing to let your sister prattle on to her heart's content. You knew from years of experience that the best way to annoy Elizabeth was by not giving her any attention at all. Are you even listening? Did you say something? She huffed at you for that one. They continued on with plenty to see and experience. You passed a few different activities that you'd like to try out if you had the time, such as kayaking and rock climbing. Mama said that would have to wait for another trip. There's a little stream during the walk that you sat beside and set out a picnic for lunch, living on a section of fruit, sandwiches, and chips. Various birds flew by overhead, and you made a game out of guessing the species that were hanging out in the trees nearby. You managed to get a couple of them right, including the kingfisher that grabbed half a club sandwich. You had more fun hanging out in the RV. It was comfortable and cozy in there with no threat of bears or coyotes hanging around waiting to pounce. Even Mom had assured you you'd be safe when you stuck to the track. You still sighed, waiting for the time you could go back. No, Jamie, not impressed by nature. Your group made it back to camp just as the sun was setting in the sky, and the stars were appearing one by one. Everyone had enjoyed different parts of it most. You shared stories of what you thought when you were eating dinner, and afterwards you pitched in to help clean up. You, along with Elizabeth and Cove, got to head back in the RV early and spend some time together while the parents stayed outside longer. It was nice to have the space to yourselves after the cramped journey there, and while Elizabeth had locked herself in the back room with their headphones, you and Cove were left in the main lounge area. You headed up to the loft to relax on your own. You had a night to sleep there, so you might as well get used to it. You climbed the ladder and headed up to the loft, laying back and relaxing after the big day out. Cove stayed down below and spread out on the couch, doing much the same thing. Grabbing your backpack, you passed the time until the adults returned. Holding your stuffed animal in your arms, you rested quietly for a while, almost dozing off as you did so. The parents all arrived soon after, each of them climbing the RV and finding some place to sit down and rest your legs. Elizabeth, having heard the commotion, came out of the room for the first time since arriving and joined you all. You spent the evening chatting and playing a few games, enjoying the last evening of the trip together. Bedtime arrived within the blink of an eye. As the group hunkered down before the night, you wanted to find around to be sure nothing had been left behind. He explained that Cliff was going to start driving early in the morning, like on the first day, but would be letting everyone else in the group sleep. There wouldn't be a need for all of them to get up. Now it's the time to check if you hadn't left anything outside. You, as well as everyone else, were confident yet it all packed up inside the RV, which meant it was time to get some rest before the journey home tomorrow. Your mom and Elizabeth said goodnight, heading to the back room while you climbed up to the loft. Cove and his family got situated below in the previously set arrangement. You tried to get comfortable as a million thoughts were running through your mind. It was hard to believe that the trip was practically over, and before you knew it, you'd be back in your own bed at home. You enjoyed this mini adventure. It was short, that's for sure, but you got to see and do so much during your time here. All in all, it was a nice break away from home. The minutes ticked by silently. It didn't take long for the soft snores of Cliff and Kyra to drift up to you. They were asleep now. You wondered if Cove was still awake and decided to poke your head out from the loft to find out. You blinked through the dark. Looking down the hall, you noticed Cove laying on his back, his eyes staring straight up at the ceiling. His seafoam hair was spread out in his sleeping bag. He must have felt you watching him, because suddenly his eyes locked on yours. It was difficult to see much in the dim light, but you could make out the crooked smile on his face well enough. Give me a silly face. Cove rolled his eyes at you, or at least he thought he did. He then went back to trying to sleep. He laid down, shuffling onto your back and looking up the rivets set in the roof of the RV through the dark. At some point your eyes grew heavy, and you gently drifted off into a deep sleep. When you woke up the next morning, you listened to the rumble of the RV as it traveled the long journey home. Still blinking sleepily, you peeked over the edge of the loft to get a glimpse of what was happening. Cove was sitting with his mom on the couch, the two of them talking quietly. He must have noticed you moving around up there, because Cove's ocean blue eyes snapped to yours and he gave you a smile. Morning, Jamie. Morning, Cove. Soon your mom and Elizabeth emerged from the room, dressed and ready for the day of travel. You spent most of the day hanging out together in your RV, savoring the last few hours of vacation. I suggested a few different travel games she used to play with Cove when he was younger. You all had a great time competing against each other. When the RV finally pulled onto your street, it was well into the night, and you were looking forward to crawling in your own bed after the last few days away. Everyone else must have been feeling the same, because it's mutually agreed that unpacking and cleaning the RV could wait till morning. Once home again, you went straight up to your room and dropped into your bed, shoes and all. It felt good to be alone. After 3 days squashed again in the RV like a can of sardines, having your own private space felt great. With those last few thoughts drifting through your mind, it wasn't long before you dozed off to sleep. Tomorrow, life would go on like normal. Okay, next moment will be growing. Early one afternoon, you found yourself in the living room with your family. It was another one of those summer days where it felt too hot to go outside, but it was too uncomfortable to do anything inside either. The air conditioner was cranked up as far as you can negotiate it. Everyone was still feeling pretty lazy. You, your moms, and sister were lounging around while the TV blared on in the backdrop and glowed by all of you. You specifically were lying spread eagle on the carpet. You stared up at the ceiling, your eyes unfocused and mind clear of all thoughts. Elizabeth broke the silence with a loud groan. You glanced over. She was lying on her back over the couch, charging her calf with one hand.
Ugh.
I feel terrible. I'm dying in this house and my legs hurt. Mom looked up from the magazine she'd barely been flipping through and frowned, concerned. Could you restrain him somehow? Elizabeth flailed briefly, then flopped onto the side with a heavy sigh. I don't know, it just hurts.
Sweetie.
Oh, sweetheart. Ma got up from her seat at the kitchen table and walked over to your sister. She did a light pat on Elizabeth's shoulder sympathetically. I'm sorry you have to deal with that. Maybe it's growing pains? You could be taller by next fall. Elizabeth scoffed. She didn't look impressed by Ma's assessment. I'd rather be my height forever than deal with this. Mom walked over too, leaning against the back of the couch. Kids, they grow up so fast. Elizabeth have a home of her own, maybe with a nice husband and some kids, if she feels like it. She sniffled loudly and wiped her eye, but you could tell it was just a bit. You tilted your head. You know you knew Elizabeth liked guys, it was hard to imagine her with a boyfriend or a husband. She seemed interested in hanging out with a group of friends, not chasing after boys. Mom must agree with you because she shook her head.
No.
Let's not exaggerate, he's still practically a child. But if you ever do pursue romance, Elizabeth, you can talk to me about it. Definitely. Why swing the London mirror? Elizabeth's features contorted in disgust.
No!
No way, I am not talking to my moms about that. Mom's jaw dropped and she gasped in an exaggerated display of shock. Her hand came out to rest against her chest. Mom only grinned. She didn't look offended by Elizabeth's quick responses at all. You really wouldn't be so bad to come to us. I know what it's like to have a crush on a pretty boy or two. I don't, but I can listen anyway. Mom snorted at her own joke, while Mom burst into giggles. You're having a little too much fun at Elizabeth's expense. Elizabeth certainly wasn't feeling the amusement, because she rolled her eyes and sat up.
Thanks.
I'm going back to my room. I'd rather not alone, thanks. She strode off towards the staircase, taking the steps two at a time. Your mom stared after her, then turned to each other with raised eyebrows. Oops, looks like you scared her off with all that romance talk.
Well?
Oh well, we'll get her next time. You watched them titter with some surprise. Obviously, your mom's like women, but you know I did that Ma like guys too. Today's the first time you heard her say something like that. Ma, you like guys and girls? Ma turned to you, happy to bring into things now that you've spoken up. You smiled and nodded. That's right, I like both. But I like your mom most out of everyone. She's special. Ma's smile turned all soft in the corners, like it usually did when she looked at her. She pinched Mom's cheek lightly. Mom reached up to cup a hand over Ma's. Even when Ma stopped pulling your cheek, their hands remained clasped together.
You're fantastic!
Thanks, Lonnie. I think most women have charm, but no one can handle you.
Aww.
Aw, Pamela. Ma beamed and kissed Mom once in the cheek as she'd been pinching before. You cringed. Parents were embarrassing. You shut down as if that would hide you from sight. From parents like that. Ma looked back to you, letting Mom's hand go with a brief squeeze. She settled down next to you, and Ma followed soon after. You know, I'm also here to listen to you whenever you're ready. That offer isn't just for Elizabeth. In fact, I think that talk might be needed sooner for you. After all, you already have someone, isn't that right? Mom shook her head and elbowed Ma, but it was futile. Meddler. You blushed fiercely. Ma only giggled and smiled, not looking at the least bit apologetic. There's no rush, of course. You can take all the time you need to figure it out what or who you want.
It's okay.
Don't think you have to stick with whatever you come up with right now, either. Nice like that. You can change and you can learn. Mom nodded her agreement. The two of us are happy to hear you out. You may be able to relate better than you think. Still, we won't push the topic. At least, most of the time. She gave Ma the weakest scathing look possible while being unable to stop grinning. I'd rather pass on all that.
It's no trouble.
Of course. Just wanted to make sure you knew we were always here. Mom let out that exaggerated sniffle. It didn't take a genius to realize it was fake. First Elizabeth, now you, Jamie. Do you have to grow up? Yes, children tend to do that from time to time. Your parents quickly grew absorbed in their conversation about rearing kids. You just thought it was your cue to leave, getting up so you can spend some time alone in your room too. Let you go without problems, so you made your way up the stairs. Got outside once she stepped into your room. It's just as sweltering in there as it was in the living room, possibly even a little warmer. You couldn't even open your window since it was hotter outside. You just let the AC out. You dragged your feet as you crossed the room. You checked your current sweltering condition in the mirror as you passed by it. You thought back to the conversation you had downstairs about growing up and all that. After a moment, you stepped a bit closer to the mirror. You stared into it, then turned away from the surface to look down at yourself. You were definitely growing alright. It was weird thinking about how you are now in comparison to what you had been when you were younger. When you came into your body, it was sort of scrawny. You shifted to the side, your head still facing forward, continuing the self-evaluation from this viewpoint. Ooh. You were born intersex, and your chest was flat, but you aimed to have compressed through hormone therapy. You were young right now and had a body that was still developing, so you were hopeful about the future. You ran a fingertip over your birthmark. That was something that had been consistent for you. You took a step backwards, finished with your impromptu inspection. You locked eyes with your reflection, cocking your head to the side. All things considered, you had no idea how to feel. You tilted your head over to the opposite side as if that would help you make up your mind. It didn't. You shook your head roughly, saying thoughts of what you were turning into out of your mind. This wasn't the time to focus on such things. You had to find something to do in this heat. You shuffled over to your bed, collapsing onto the mattress. Your brow scrunched up in thought. Time passed slowly into your annoyance, possible ideas about what to do were few and far between. You weren't sure how long it had been, but eventually you heard your mom call you from downstairs. Jamie! There's a call for you! Cove wants to come over, is that alright? You perked up at the words sitting up in bed. You yelled back to her immediately. Yeah! You got to your feet and headed downstairs eager to see your friend. You need to go downstairs soon anyway, because your empty stomach told you it was almost time for lunch. Just as you reached the bottom of the stairs, you saw Mom put the phone back on the receiver. You glanced at Mom, hanging her hip against the kitchen counter.
What a pickle.
Well, here comes trouble. We better prepare ourselves. Mom clicked her tongue, clear disapproval of Mom's words. He's such a good boy. Cove never wants to cause trouble. He can just be a bit thoughtless and impulsive. Well, I know he's very sweet, but that's what makes it more of a problem. If a stranger or some kid from school was egging Jamie on to behave badly, I think we can both agree that he'd do the right thing in the end. But if Cove Holden got into a reckless mood and wanted Jamie to be a part of the ride, can we really be certain of what call he'd make then?
Yes.
Yes, I think so. Jamie helps Cove settle down. He would have gotten himself in even more trouble without him.
Thanks.
You have a point. Ma just laughed. As she turned away, still snoring, her eyes met yours. You blinked in surprise, then waved at you with the easy grin. Mom looked over, noticing you at the foot of the stairs as well.
Oh.
I didn't expect you to come down already, Jamie. I just wanted to let you know what was happening. You called Mom out on her comment. Well, if I hadn't come down now, then I wouldn't have heard everything you just said.
Pam.
Ooh, you got caught, Pam.
What?
You were saying things too. I didn't say anything I wouldn't have told Jamie directly. Oh, you're unbelievable. You shook your head at your parents, as you fought a blush when you remembered just what they'd been discussing. Alright, you got me. I'm sorry for being gossipy and saying that about your friend. I can be bad too.
Let's go.
We'll get out of your way now. Mom sighed in mock defeat and made her way down the hall. Mom followed after her with a hushed giggle. Now you were alone in the living room, tasked with waiting for Cove. And I was just fine with you. If it hadn't been so hot outside, you would have visited him at his house a long time ago. You took a seat at the kitchen counter and settled in for the wait. As expected, there was a knock on the door a few minutes later. When you got up and answered, there was your neighbor standing on the other side. He came in once you stepped aside to let him pass, giving a little wave. You greeted him as you typically did, which was a nudge to the shoulder. He reached over and nudged his shoulder. Cove rocked to the side a bit and rolled his eyes, but he was smiling. Cove sighed and wiped at his face a bit. You noticed a sheen of sweat across his brow. He was glad to be back in an air-conditioned place. You only had to walk across the street to get there. It must be obvious that you were confused by his visit because he answered your unspoken question. I don't want to do anything. Not supposed like this. He gestured vaguely to the humid air hanging around.
So...
I thought I could at least do nothing with you. He nodded. That made sense to you. You might have done the same thing. Have you had lunch yet? I was gonna do it soon. Shook his head.
not really.
I haven't really felt like eating because of the heat. I probably should have lunch. I didn't have breakfast this morning. You didn't eat at all? Then you gotta have something now. You urged Cove in the direction of the kitchen. He stumbled out for you. Okay. As one, you head into the kitchen. Cross your arms as you glanced around, wondering what you should scrounge up for a meal. I don't want to eat anything that's warmed up. Is there something cold or not cooked? Yeah. After a bit of back and forth, the two of you concluded that you should both read the fridge and cabinet in order to make sandwiches. But that settled, you planned to decide on the outside layers first. There's a wide variety to choose from, since everyone in your house had their own favorites. It's white bread, wheat bread, sourdough, mixed grain, gluten-free bread, and pita pockets.
Hey,
Can you take the grain one for me? Sure. Reach for the mixed grains, then made your decision. Skip spread. Come in some pita pockets. Pulled out the pita pocket too, setting both items on the counter. Then you had to decide what main directions the sandwich should go in. You wanted to make a truly savory style sandwich. I think savory would make it feel like a real meal. As for the specific ingredients... Get some lettuce. Mozzarella. Move on to the condiments. For the finishing touch, you intend to top your sandwich with pesto, mustard, ranch, and that was everything. You now to yourself with a quiet hum, satisfied. Lettuce, cheese, mustard, pesto, and ranch. That's something. Two of you bustled around the kitchen, opening and closing things in order to collect everything you needed for your individual sandwiches. You focused intently on assembling your own, for the most part. When you were close to being done, though, you glanced over at your neighbor. Phil was putting his sandwich together delicately, his brow furrowed and tongue sticking out, just barely. There were open jars of peanut butter and honey near his plate, as well as a banana peel. So he was making a peanut butter, banana, and honey sandwich on mixed grain bread. It seemed weird, said the guy eating lettuce and cheese only. You had done at least some things differently. Curiosity satiated, you turned back to your plate and finished your own creation. By the time you were done, Cove had already cleaned up his workstation. He turned to face you, studying your sandwich briefly. A small towel was tugged at the corners of his mouth. I guess it didn't look inedible to him, at least. Done? Yeah.
cool.
He waited as he quickly returned to the ingredients and cleaned a few utensils. Then the two of you collected your respective plates. You both agreed on heading upstairs to hang out in your room. You and Cove entered your bedroom while balancing your food on the plates. Nothing fell, so a successful trip. Both took a seat on the ground, stretching on the hardwood floor in an attempt to keep a bit cooler. He immediately took a big bite of his sandwich and chewed, then hummed happily. The sandwich is really good. At least that's something. At this point, you sat down and started on your own sandwich. You scrunched up your face. This does not turn out as expected. Unfortunately, you were having regrets about the concoction you created. He leaned back in his hands while chewing and glanced around. His every movement was sluggish. Wanna do something? It seemed the plan of not doing anything at all had already worn thin, despite his lack of enthusiasm. You couldn't even muster a reply. Cove took your non-answer as a sign to brainstorm. He rolled his head back, looking up at the ceiling. What about Hangman? Sure, why not? You put your plate to the side and pulled out some markers and scrap paper. As you laid everything on the floor, you scooted back to make more room in front of you. Cove picked up one of the markers with his right hand while keeping a half slice of sandwich in his left.
That's,
Can I pick the phrase? If you want to. He smiled briefly before he bent over the paper and began sketching the hangman frame. Then he stopped, pursing his lips in thought. He tapped the end of his marker against his cheek. You watched silently as Cove looked down at the paper, up at your face, and then off to the side in a loop. His marker tapping his cheek the entire time. He raised an eyebrow. He suggested the game and wanted to pick the phrase, but it looked like he didn't actually have anything in mind for it. Finally, he put empty lines on the paper to signify spots for letters. Alright, you can stop guessing. You peered over. The secret phrase consisted of 3 words. The first 2 had 3 letters, the last had 4. You thought hard about what your first guess would be. Alright, I already know what this is, so we're gonna get this over with. Got one. After the first round, you're about to take another bite of your sandwich when that thought occurred to you. I wonder if anyone turned off the TV downstairs. The TV was on earlier, but no one was really watching. Then everyone started leaving the living room. I know I didn't turn it off. It might still be on downstairs, no one there. Go smiled quickly at that.
oh.
Poor show. I think with no one around to enjoy it. What was it? Scooted off into the middle distance, trying to recall the show's name. I feel like it was some kind of crime-solving drama. Cove nodded sleepily, his eyes closed and opened again with some effort. Can you give any specifics? Maybe I can guess it. Well... You rested your chin on your open palm, groggily thinking as hard as you could. I remember there was a woman with long, blonde hair, I think. She was the one solving crimes, like as a detective or something. They were seen in a police station because someone got arrested. You lost into silence, both of you thoughtful. Then Cove chuckled. It wasn't that funny, but you joined in the laughter anyway.
I don't know.
I don't know what that is. Me neither, and I just saw it. Good guess. Another round came and went, and Cove crumbled as he readjusted himself. His features were twisted in a grimace. Feels so sticky. I'm gonna be stuck to this floor forever now. I'll have to charge your rent then. Yeah, how much? $50.
What?
I can afford that. Well, you gotta pay up if you want to stick around. Cove shook his head, your terrible pun, and went back to the game instead of answering further. And he returned to the game. Yep, that's right. Cove spoke up once more, catching your attention. He was peering down at the piece of paper between you, his expression thoughtful. You know, Hangman is kind of a creepy game. Why did people come up with it? Why did they play it? It's a really old game. No one's sure where the name came from. Really? Nobody knows? Not for sure.
Wow.
Cove sounded impressed that you knew that piece of trivia. He sat up straighter under the weight of his stare. That's another one. By this point, Cove had finished his sandwich. Yours was almost gone too, but now you're getting thirsty. You brought it up to your neighbor. Should we go downstairs to get some drinks? I was thinking that too, but I don't really want to get up. Me neither. You looked over at him, daring your eyes with false suspicion. But hey, what happened to you not being able to get up ever again because you're stuck to the floor? That's still true. I mean, we're not actually going, are we? Only thought about it. You rolled your eyes and dropped the issue, defeated. Cove grinned a little at your disappointment over his victory. You're really close. Yeah? Definitely gonna get it. You are cute. That was the phrase that Cove had spent so long settling on. He stared at it. You correct letters and you had a feeling you knew what the phrase was. So you felt butterflies in your stomach at seeing it clear as day in the paper. He took in the words for a moment longer, and he looked up at Cove. He had trouble meeting your shocked gaze, a smile settling awkwardly in his lips. His next words flipped him in a mumble.
I mean...
It was all I could think of at the time. You fell backwards on the floor from your sitting position. If you were standing, you'd have fallen over. You settled for uncrossing your legs and dropping backwards on the floor instead. He didn't say anything. He thought a bit more, clearly still feeling awkward about the move he pulled. He turned away from you, his cheeks tinted pink. A moment passed between the two of you. Now would be the perfect time to change the subject, but you didn't. He didn't either. Things started feeling a bit more personal all of a sudden. You looked into Cove's ocean eyes and saw yourself staring back. Did you mean it? Do you really think I'm cute? Cove didn't crack a smile or tell you he was joking. He just firmly kept his gaze. Yeah? Finally, he broke eye contact. I heard at some point you're supposed to start liking types of people. Guys, or girls, or whoever.
I don't know.
I haven't really noticed that yet. Nothing's changed. Not in a big way, not for everybody. Maybe I have to grow up more, but at least with... He waited, but he trailed off. He wasn't going to keep talking. He glanced down. You were so close to hearing what he had to say. He shook off the strangeness of the situation and tried to be supportive. Maybe you just don't like anybody. Or maybe you like all types of people. That's normal too. Cove seemed to appreciate the thought, that the smile that appeared on his lips was any indication. But the expression was quick to disappear. He peered over at you, looking nervous. Okay, what about you? What kind of guy or person do you like? He winced and seemed to be mentally kicking himself for saying it like that. He considered his question carefully. Did you know who or what you liked? Okay, let's define Jamie's attraction. He didn't really have a physical interest in other people. There's only one person you ever had romantic feelings for. Specifically when it came down to how you felt towards boys. You found them attractive. You thought you'd be happy to be with a guy someday. And you felt towards girls. You generally weren't interested in girls, but there are special exceptions. For people who aren't exclusively male or female. You generally weren't interested in someone who's non-binary, but there are special exceptions. You returned your attention to Cove. He was waiting patiently for your response. I'd rather not talk about it. He nodded understandingly and didn't press the issue. So you got the feeling that he was kind of disappointed not to find out. Then he scratched the back of his head, sheepish. I'm not really sure how we ended up talking about all this when we started out just playing Hangman. But it was good, I think. He shrugged. Cove chuckled a little bashfully. He glanced around, clearly scrambling for something else to say. So, have you been able to practice recently? I have. The competition took a lighter turn after that, and it felt like he got closer that afternoon. Finally, the blazing sun began to set. To your relief, the air cooled down a bit as a result. You pulled yourself off the floor as did Cove, with some minor complaint. You both stretched your arms, groaning, and yawned into your hands. You glanced out your window briefly, taking in the soft reds, pinks, and purples of the late afternoon sky. Somehow you had made it through the scorching hot day in one piece. Cove turns towards you, motioning towards your window with his chin. You wanna go outside? It might be better out there than it is here now. Sure. The two of you took your time heading downstairs. You stopped briefly to grab a drink of water, then continued on your way. You stepped outside, one after the other, your destination being the familiar hills behind your house. This time of day, it was quiet outside. Flowers blew gently in the wind. Petals trembling but stubbornly hanging in there. You felt the breeze cool your heated skin to relax your shoulders. Cove closed his eyes, releasing a deep breath. I really love it out here. He quietly enjoyed the moment. Cove smiled. He was here that he was enjoying it too. A beat passed, but his gaze didn't stray from your own. His voice was impossibly soft when he spoke up again. I'm glad I met you, Jamie. You're really important to me, you know? You're special to me, Cove. Your voice came out equally delicate, and the way his features brightened, though he knew he heard you. The two of you looked over into each other's eyes. Nothing more needed to be said. Even as the sun disappeared completely and the sky darkened, you and Cove remained side by side for as long as you possibly could. The sort of intro chapter took longer than expected. We can count this as a halfway point and pick up more of this next time. Yeah, I'll catch you then.